Show me the money. President Trump offers new details on when we might expect those $2,000 tariff dividend checks. Maybe don't plan your holiday shopping around it. Plus, changing her tune, conservative firebrand Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is softening her sharp edges, but now she's butting heads with President Trump. What's the political endgame here? I'll ask the Post's politics reporter Ryan King. Those stories and more today, Monday, November 17th. I'm Caitlin Becker. It is good to be back, and this is the New York Postcast. If you've been checking your mailbox for those $2,000 tariff rebate checks President Trump had promised, I wouldn't hold your breath. The president was asked about the timing of the payouts, whether they would make it into our wallets by Christmas, and here's what he said to reporters on Air Force One over the weekend.
After this year, it'll be next year sometime.
Do you have a time frame?
No, sometime during the year next year. It's a lot of money.
The Supreme Court's ruling on the president's tariff authority could greatly impact or potentially completely cancel any checks from ever being cut, meaning next year could really be never. Then there's the fact that if SCOTUS allows the tariff money to stay in the country's coffers, Congress would still need to approve such a large budget item. And speaking of tariffs, this news comes on the heels of the announcement that the Trump administration will eliminate tariffs on coffee, bananas, and some other goods that are imported from places like Guatemala, El Salvador, Argentina, and Ecuador in an effort to lower Americans' grocery bills. The New York Times also reported that the White House is looking to eliminate certain beef tariffs in order to bring the cost of meat down as well. It seems federal immigration agents have their next target, Charlotte, North Carolina. The state's largest city was the site of a new wave of raids over the weekend. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement, quote, "We are surging DHS law enforcement to Charlotte to ensure Americans are safe and public safety threats are removed." Border Patrol agents were spotted making multiple arrests in the Democrat-run city and were widely condemned by local officials. Mayor Vi Lyles and other local leaders said in a joint statement that the raids were, quote, "causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty in our community." They also had a message of support and caution to those planning to protest the surge of federal boots on the ground. Quote, "We ask that, as a community, we do so peacefully. We do not want to see violence like many witnessed in other cities." The Queen City is home to about 150,000 immigrant residents. Gary Wayne Howard. He's a Florida man who was found guilty of 22 counts of child pornography and branded a sex offender for life back in 2007. Howard didn't spend much time behind bars for those heinous crimes, and he was released on parole. 3 years later, authorities found his abandoned rental car near a lake in Kentucky and assumed he just violated that parole and then killed himself. Except he didn't. The 74-year-old creep was found very much alive in Indiana last week, what officials called a, quote, "deliberate attempt by Howard to stage his own death to appear as a suicide." And after U.S. Marshals arrested Howard when he stepped out onto his front porch, he reportedly said, quote, "I had hoped to be dead before you caught up with me." Dead or behind bars, the sex offender is finally off the streets. Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's the new nickname President Trump has given the Georgia Republican, even withdrawing his endorsement of her for the 2026 midterm elections. Why? I'll give you 2 words. Epstein files. In several Truth Social posts over the weekend, the president said in part, "She has gone far left. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party. You know he's mad when he gives you a nickname." While Greene has long been a staunch defender of the president, they've split on this one particular issue that the president really, really feels strongly about: whether or not to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, Greene is a vocal advocate for releasing them, while the president seemed not to be, until last night. Now, in what appears to be an admission that the Epstein vote is going to pass the House, he's reversed course, taking to Truth Social to say, quote, "We have nothing to hide." But the Congresswoman has also been critical of the president for straying from the focus of the MAGA movement that he leads. She appeared on CNN's State of the Union yesterday to address the rift.
I think that the American people deserve to be put first. That's what Make America Great Again meant to me. And I think that President Trump can do that if he refocuses his effort. And I think that's what I want to see. I think that's what the country wants to see. Even if he's attacking me, I do want him to be successful for the American people.
So what does all this mean for Greene, for Trump, for the MAGA movement? For that, I want to talk to the Post politics reporter Ryan King. Ryan, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, I don't think a lot of Democrats would agree with the president calling her a lefty now. She's actually changed her tune on some topics. During the CNN interview, she even apologized for her role in our toxic political culture and says it's a fair criticism to blame her for some of that, which many people have done. We know there are no coincidences in politics, though. Every move is plotted and planned. So what is she playing at here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a couple things going on. First of all, I think, with the immediate situation she's dealing with is she's trying to contain the fallout from President Trump turning on her. So she has to respond to him. And so she's going on CNN to try to address his supporters and address these concerns. There's also been some speculation that she's been upset with the president because he was against her running for U.S. Senate or for higher office in Georgia, and she's denied that, of course. But notably, her change of tune with Trump seemed to come shortly after that period of time. I mean, she announced in May that she was going to run for the Senate, and then we do know that there were some big things that happened afterwards. The Trump administration had dropped bombs on Iran, for example, and she was opposed to that. So there were things that Trump did that she was against. But there has been some speculation that she's eyeing the 2028 cycle. And she had been questioned about this by comedian Tim Dillon. And it certainly seems that, even though she denies that she's angling for a 2028 presidential bid, that she has her eye on the future of the Republican Party and the future of the MAGA movement. And, on some level, maybe she is being really sincere about this, that she's concerned about the direction that MAGA has taken under Trump, that's not being America first again. And so she's just trying to steer the future of the movement.
And we've talked about Epstein specifically, that issue dividing MAGA before. And it seems, at least with Greene, it's going even deeper than what we've really discussed. So with the Epstein vote scheduled for this week, what happens to the MAGA movement, the Republican Party at large with all of this? Because this topic, with Greene herself and with the Republicans and the MAGA movement, does seem to be splintering people.
Yes, and President Trump is certainly not liking Republicans defecting from him on the Epstein issue. He keeps accusing them of helping Democrats by bringing up the Epstein issue. So this is really tricky for the movement, the MAGA movement, to navigate. And certainly we saw this weekend, Thomas Massie, who's championing one of the bills, the bill that's going to be voted on to force the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. He warned Republicans that, look, President Trump isn't going to be president forever. You have to think about your legacy and what, your vote on this will do for your legacy. And we had seen over the summer that there was a lot of infighting within the MAGA movement over Epstein. Now what we're seeing is there are some MAGA figures and Republicans that are suspicious that Democrats are really just trying to exploit this. So that's giving Trump a little bit of ammunition here. But it looks like with this vote specifically, it's likely to clear the House this week because of the mechanism used, a discharge petition. You need a majority of representatives in the House to get that vote to come forward. So it's likely to pass. The next question is will it go through the Senate? And if it does go through the Senate, which GOP leadership in the Senate hasn't really given much indication either way, then is it something that President Trump would veto? And what will happen? What will reactions be if he vetoes it? So, and Thomas Massie has been talking about trying to get a veto-proof majority in the House. So we'll see. It's going to be a big test this week.
Yeah, if it passes the House, the president's made no bones about it. He does not want that to happen. He is annoyed about all of this. He doesn't like the issue. So I can't imagine he's going to be pleased with that. And all of this infighting could lead to party shifts or splits. And we know that when that happens, the ramifications are usually long term. But the near term is all about the midterms. And the president is trying to keep a MAGA Republican coalition together for that. But it just seems like there's cracks in the foundation of the movement, and they're starting to show. So how could this all play out as we close out 2025, which is almost over, and then to next year when Americans go back to the voting booth?
Yeah, this is going to be really tricky for the president to navigate because, a divided coalition is easier for the other side to beat. We saw in the 2024 election cycle, Democrats were divided over Israel, for example, and that helped Republicans. So this is going to be really tricky for the president. We have seen him repair relationships with people in the past. For example, he had a big falling out with Elon Musk, and the two seem to have sort of buried the hatchet a little bit. He seems to have sort of mended fences a bit with people like Ron DeSantis and stuff, despite, big bitter feuds during the 2024 election cycle. So we could see Trump try to mend some of these relationships and kind of try to put to rest, some of these bits of infighting that he's dealing with, and try to bring coalition back together. But this could also be a problem for him in terms of steering the party, because for a while he's enjoyed tremendous endorsement power, where the person he's endorsed in primaries was very likely to win. And we're going to see a big test of that this year. I mean, he just yanked his endorsement for Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's been opposed to Thomas Massie, for example. These are pretty popular Republicans within their respective districts. So it's going to be a big test of his ability to steer the party going forward. And this is all really important for Trump, because if he doesn't retain control of the House of Representatives, that means Democrats are going to take control over all these committees, and they're going to start opening up all sorts of different investigations into different things. And he's going to be dealing with a bit of a political nightmare for the remaining 2 years of his presidency. So this could be a real problem for him.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out, particularly to your point of what happens with the president's endorsement when it comes to primaries, because that comes, of course, first before we even get to the midterms. So we're going to have an idea of how things are going to shake out, at least an indication of it when it comes to primary season. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
71-year-old Democratic Congressman Brad Sherman is doing some damage control after the California lawmaker was caught ogling racy photos on X during a commercial flight. Really, dude? You do you in your own time, but a little mid-flight tact wouldn't kill you. Sherman denied seeking out the photos of the scantily clad women, instead shifting the blame. Elon Musk made him do it. Sherman's spokesperson told the Post, quote, "This was nothing more than scrolling through Twitter, and unfortunately, Elon Musk has ruined the Twitter algorithm to give people content they don't ask for or subscribe to." Has Elon destroyed Twitter? Depends on who you ask. But this, I'm not sure we can blame this one on him. Now, how did this private scrolling become a story? Well, an eagle-eyed passenger on the flight snapped some photos, capturing the moment when Sherman's tablet showed several women in very little clothing. Brad, my man, you're doing this on a tablet? Giant screen? Tiny little quarters. In a full circle moment, the images of the congressman were then themselves posted to X, where they've racked up almost 15 million views. While Sherman, in an interview with Punchbowl News, did blame the algorithm, he also admitted that the photos were not appropriate. And then this, quote, "If I see a picture of a woman, might I look at it longer than a sunset? Yeah. Okay, but maybe sunsets on flights, women behind closed doors." The Fender Mustang guitar Kurt Cobain played in the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video is hitting the auction block next spring, and one expert says that the bidding for the famous instrument is going to get, quote, competitive. The blue 1969 model was rumored to be one of the late rocker's favorites, and it's estimated to sell for between $2.5 and $5 million. Christie's global president, Alexander Rotter, told the Post it's a piece of American history, and of Cobain, quote, "He made the greatest music on this guitar and defined a generation." The guitar is part of an impressive collection being sold at Christie's that belonged to the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, Jim Irsay, who passed away last spring. Other guitars being sold include instruments owned by or played by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Prince, Jerry Garcia, Janis Joplin, Eddie Van Halen. Pretty much you name it, he bought it. Some people collect stamps. Others apparently collect millions and millions of dollars of rock and roll history. What do you even do with all of that when you have it? Display it like a Hard Rock Cafe? Certainly he didn't play any of it. Rich people hobbies boggle the mind. You want a free hobby? Podcast listening. So like and follow the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube.